We begin in Afghanistan, where the government has suffered further setbacks in trying to hold off the advance of the Taliban. The insurgents have reportedly seized the city of Ghazni, near just 150 kilometers from the capital, Kabul. U.S. intelligence reports say Kabul could come under attack within 30 days. The humanitarian crisis is deepening as tens of thousands are seeking safety without knowing where to turn.
Shaky and shocking video purports to show Taliban fighters celebrating victory after taking a town in Farah province in the west. They appear to be dragging the body of a killed opponent. In images too disturbing to show, they then throw the corpse into a pit and begin shooting at it. It's scenes like that which have prompted many Afghans to leave their rural homes and seek sanctuary in cities, like these people in a makeshift camp at a park in Kabul. Tens of thousands of families have been displaced, and there's not enough food or other relief material for them.
The displaced people are in a terrible and frustrating situation, but the government has not sent a representative here to help.
As the Afghan government struggles to contain the Taliban's military advances, it's also appealing to the world community for humanitarian support.
We call on the international community and international institutions to help as soon as possible to provide food and non-food items to the many people displaced in Afghanistan.
Many have questioned the very speedy withdrawal of US-led international forces, which is due to be complete this month. But criticism is also being directed at neighboring Pakistan for not using its influence over the Taliban to end the bloodshed and rights abuses. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi rejected the criticism and said his country would play its role to facilitate the Afghan peace process.
We have done whatever we could, and we will continue to do what we can for peace, for stability, and for regional connectivity. It is in sync with the agenda of our government.
The return of the Taliban and the possibility of a protracted civil war are likely to prompt an exodus of refugees, many heading west towards Europe. Greece was often the first point of arrival in the EU during the 2016 migrant crisis. Athens says it's not able to handle another such wave of arrivals.
Joining me now from Dortmund is Eleanor Zaino, who leads the Konrad Adenauer Foundation in Kabul. Eleanor, welcome. We should mention that you live in Kabul, but happen to be joining us just now from Germany. So I just want to ask you first, how surprised you are by the pace of the Taliban advances?
Well, all of us, we were very much surprised how fast and successful the Taliban could capture basically all over the country, the main districts, the provincial capitals, 10 provincial capitals almost they have taken. And Kabul now seems to look more and more encircled. So this was a surprise to everybody. Nobody expected that.
Was this inevitable after Joe Biden announced the withdrawal of U.S. troops?
Well, I think in the end, I think most of the international countries, they were willing to leave. Everybody was saying it was time to leave after 20 years. But what is now criticized is the way we left. So how quick the United States withdrew and did not ask for any further conditions from the Taliban side to at least to ask for conditions for the negotiations in Doha for the peace process. So this is criticized, the way how the NATO troops left and the United States left.
Biden and others have said it is up to the Afghan forces to fight for their freedom. Simply put, are they up to it?
What we see now, I mean, yes, everybody says the Afghans have to fight for the country. But what we see now is surprisingly also that the Afghan security forces seem to be inferior to the Taliban, who are much more highly motivated. And that is surprising because the Afghan security forces outnumber the Taliban fighters by about 10 times. But the reasons for this, what I see is that the Taliban fighters are much higher motivated. They also suffer severe losses, but they get new recruits also from the neighboring countries, while the morale or the morality of the Afghan security forces is going down and down after they have lost their international security partner. And now they have hard times finding new recruits. They have, I think, about 50% of their positions are vacant because they cannot find any more recruits for their own troops.
Taliban forces have now just taken the town of Ghazni, some 150 kilometers from Kabul. Are we jumping the gun to ask if it is indeed possible that Kabul could also fall?
Yes, this is now what we are concerned about, very much concerned. And the fear and the concern is growing now daily in Kabul. I can really feel it also in my network, in my office, how much the fear is increasing now. And now we hear sources saying that maybe Kabul might be attacked within a couple of weeks. And this will be a very tough battle because we know Kabul will be the last city to be attacked, but it will be a very tough and very hard fight. And this is what everybody is now very much concerned about.
There are concerns about the safety of Afghans who help NATO forces, and even international NGOs and think tanks like yours. Are you concerned at this point about your colleagues back in Kabul?
Yes, that's our main concern at the moment. Of course, we are very much worried about our local employees. We don't know how to protect them and to keep them safe. And we have been working on crisis management now for weeks, but the last days have become more and more intense and more frightening for everybody.
That is Eleanor Zaino, who leads the Konrad Adenauer Foundation's office in Kabul. Really appreciate your time and perspective.
Thank you.
The Taliban's relentless onslaught in Afghanistan is bringing them close to taking the major city of Mazar-i-Sharif. This comes after the insurgents have taken up to 10 regional capitals and are closing in on more. By one estimate, the Taliban are in control of 65% of Afghanistan's territory. Mazar and its inhabitants are cut off from the rest of the country and are awaiting the worst.
This is Mazar-i-Sharif. The city still has a semblance of normal life, even as the Taliban close in. Mazar is the hub of the country's north. It's also Afghanistan's fourth largest city. If and when it falls to the Taliban, it will be a huge prize in their quest to take control of the country. Until recently, Mazar hosted Germany's contingent of NATO forces in Afghanistan. But they're gone now, part of the general withdrawal of foreign coalition troops. People who fled fighting in the north have brought back grim tales.
The Taliban are beating and robbing people. And if there's a young girl or a widow in a family, they forcibly take them. We fled to protect our honor.
Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has paid an emergency visit to shore up support from local warlords. But the city's chances of surviving a Taliban onslaught are by all accounts slim. It's largely cut off from the rest of the region, and it seems only a matter of time before it falls. The consequences for the inhabitants could be dire. This is the city of Kunduz, recently taken by Taliban forces. The United Nations also warns of calamitous consequences when the Taliban takes over a city.
In the areas that have already been captured by the Taliban and in contested areas, the office is receiving reports of summary executions, attacks against current and former government officials and their family members, military use and destruction of homes, schools, and clinics, and the laying of large numbers of IEDs, improvised explosive devices.
Mazar-i-Sharif may be enjoying its last days or even hours of relative freedom, before residents will have to live with the sight of Taliban fighters patrolling their own streets.